Hello Stampers, this is Jeannie Moss, the Bluegrass Stamper here in Kentucky, and today I want to show you how to make a cute spooky frame. We're going to be using the Frightfully Cute Bundle, and hopefully you can see that without a glare. We're going to use these stamps. Well, we're going to use a few of these stamps, and we're also going to use the dies. So we'll be using the die set. It's a really cute set, got a lot of really cute things in it. We will be making a piece suitable for framing. It will fit in a 4x6 frame. You can pick up a 4x6 frame at Dollar Tree or one of the other dollar stores. This one, a friend of mine had some and didn't want them, and so she sent them to me, so I am lucky to have a few frames. So this is what we'll be making today. This does not really require a lot of supplies. Here's a list of the supplies. I'm hoping you can see that. So you can take a screenshot of that or write down what you need, but supplies are very minimal on this. For our cardstock, we will have a piece of Very Vanilla 4x6. And yours won't have a hole. It'll just be a piece of Very Vanilla that's 4x6. You'll have a piece of Granny Apple Green that is 2x4. And then you'll have some black scraps for cutting out some of the die cut pieces. So this was a stamp club project, and we had a black layer on one of our other cards. So what I did was I cut the pieces out of the black layer. We always like to save and be frugal, and when you cut out of the layers, you just want to stay away from the edges because that's the only part of the layer that can be seen. And this was the card that we used that layer on, so you can see that you don't see the holes, but it's a really good way to save cardstock. So I cut the pieces out of that. So we had 3 little fence pieces. And what I did with those was put a little bit of glue on the end of the fence piece and put those two together. And I did that with all 3 pieces. So I had one long fence piece, and you can see that here. And I've already done that to the one we're going to be using today. So you can see that right here. This is going to be the fence. We also need a spider web, and we need a tree. So those are the black pieces that we'll need. And like I said, I got all of those out of a layer. So there are the 3 fences, that was the spider web, and there was the tree. So we'll have those pieces. I'm going to put those to the side, and we're going to start with this piece. So our 4x6 piece, the first thing that I did was took this stamp and stamped it in crushed curry on this 4x6 piece. And then I took the die, and that's this little guy right here, took him and cut that out using the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. So this is what I have now, are these 2 pieces. So this is the piece we are going to work on first, and I'm going to lay the moon over to the side. So we'll be using the blending brushes, and I like to use a different brush for each color family. So I have a brush for my yellows, a brush for my oranges, a brush for my purples. And we're going to start with the crushed curry. Now this is the same color that we stamped and cut the moon. So this will be the same color as our moon. And we just rub the brush on the ink pad, and you'll just start around the spot where your moon is going to go. You'll start in the center around that hole, and then you'll just be working your way out. Oops. Try not to bend your paper. Try to keep that paper pretty straight. All right, so we're done with the crushed curry and we're gonna move on to the pumpkin pie. So I'm gonna switch brushes to my orange brush and I'm gonna use the pumpkin pie ink. And with this one, I'm going to start out at more at the edge of the yellow, the crushed curry, and I'm gonna blend into that crushed curry ink. So this is going to be more an outside ring of this. Oops. And it's okay to get into that yellow because you do want these colors to blend together. So now we have our crushed curry and we have our pumpkin pie. And then we are going to switch to Gorgeous Grape. Now this, I don't want to get too heavy-handed with this, so I'll be a little more careful with this one. And I just want to put it around the edges. And you need to be careful with this. Add it lightly because you can always add more, but it's really hard to take it off if you get too much. I like to put some along the edges, just a bit. And then I like to create what I call a vignette. So I like to bring it in a little bit deeper in the corners. So I'm just working along the edges and then bringing it in a little bit farther on the corners. And that is all there is to that. So now you can see that we've got a lot of light when we put that moon in there. We've got a lot of light around the moon, and then it gets hazier as it goes out and a little darker as it goes out. On our 2x4 green strip, we're going to cut just to make that look like a hill. So all I did was took my scissors. I just started at one corner, just kind of went up, and then just kind of went down on the other side so that you have something that looks like this. That will be the piece, that will be our grass that will go at the bottom. So when you lay that down, if you see that you don't have enough color, you can go back and add more color if you need to. So I think I'm going to add a little bit more purple right there. Alrighty. So we're finished with our blending brushes and our coloring. We will be stamping at the bottom of this piece, Happy Halloween to You. We're going to use this stamp right here, and I stamped that in Memento Black. And you want to keep it a little bit up from the bottom because this will go in a frame and your frame will cover a little bit of the edges. So it will look something like this. And then this piece is ready to be adhered. So I'm just using some of our two-way glue on this. If you want to use tape runner, you can definitely do that. Whatever you like to use. Just line that up with the bottom of that card. And there is our grass. Our next step will be to glue our tree on. So you'll just decide where you want him to be and just put him right on there with a little bit of glue. Oops. If you have trouble using the glue and just getting a little bit, if you get too much glue, you can also take your silicone mat and you can pour some glue out on it and then use a sponge to apply your glue to the back of these. So there is our tree, and you should have already put these 3 fence pieces together so that you have 1 fence piece, and it's now ready to go on. And again, you can do the same thing. You could squirt out some glue. You could also squirt out a little puddle of glue and use a Q-tip to add your glue. I just tend to just dot mine on. I like my glue when it's about half empty, because then it doesn't come out so quickly. But just be careful with it. Try not to get a big glob of glue on there. Then when you've got glue on that, you'll decide where you want that, and you will put him down. And give him a nice press. Our next step will be to decide where our spider web is going to go, because we are going to put a spider on here. So we've got the spider from the stamp set, and he is on his own web. I'm going to use the Memento black ink. So what I will do is kind of decide where I want this to go, and then I won't glue this down yet because I can adjust this to my spider. So I just kind of lay him down and decide where I think I want him to go. And this is one of those skinny stamps, so you want to be careful not to rock and not to get glue ink around the edges. If you do get that cleaned off, be careful not to rock this stamp. Press it down. And while I have the ink pad out, I'm going to stamp the bat. There's this cute little bat, and we're going to put him on our moon. So we're going to go ahead and stamp him too. So we've got the stamping finished. Now we're ready to glue this piece on, and now you can see where you want him to be coming down from, and you can just put some adhesive on the back of this. Just remember that part of this will be hanging off, so you don't need glue everywhere because we will be trimming it. So I'm going to put it about, I want him, let's put him there and press that down. So once you've done that, you can flip this over and you can trim off the excess of the spider web. And we are almost finished with this guy. So here's our little work of art. In my frame, I've gone ahead and took out the innards of my frame. So I have these pieces of my frame. So what I'm going to do is take this. I want to make sure that you can see that this is a little bit, my piece of art's a little bigger than this. So I want to try to put this inside my frame and see if it's going to fit, and it's not. So mine's going to need to be trimmed down. So I'm going to trim a little bit off the edges to get him to fit in the frame nicely. And he's going to need a little bit trimmed off of the bottom too, for mine. Now yours may fit perfectly in your frame because all these frames are made a little bit different. So once you've got it so that it'll fit in your frame, I'm going to take this piece that came in the frame and I'm just going to flip that over, and I am going to adhere this right to that piece. So I'm just going to put my glue or your tape runner or whatever you're going to be using on the back of that. And I'm actually going to lay this down because I can see this better than that. So I'm going to line that up as best I can and adhere that to that piece that came from the frame. Then the moon is going to be popped up with some dimensionals. So I've got my dimensionals. I'll put a couple of those on there. And then the moon will go right over that hole. And I'm going to need to get this over here where I can see it. All right, so now our moon is popped up. And all we need to do is put it in our frame. I always keep the glass in the frame. That way I don't have to worry about how to dispose of it. It also provides more stability for my artwork. And if I ever want to use the frame for something else, I still have the glass. So this will go in. These guys will pop down. And there we go. There's our little framed artwork. So again, this is using the Frightfully Cute Bundle. And you have all the supplies on that sheet that I showed at the beginning. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed this project. I hope you'll give it a try. And if you do, be sure to send me a picture and let me know if you liked it and how it turned out for you. Thanks for joining me, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.